Welcome to the Pathways to Recovery by Addiction Recovery Solutions. Today's episode features a testimony that travels through childhood trauma, deep addiction, criminal behavior, incarceration, and ultimately redemption. Our guest is Minister Alan Brentwood-Martis, a man who's been to the depths of addiction and now serves others as an addiction counselor inside a prison. His journey is raw, it's real, it's powerful, and a reminder that no one's too far gone to change. Let's get into it. Mr. Mardis, you're born in Houston. What was your family dynamic like growing up?
Wow, man, a good family, mother, a father. I had two brothers besides myself, and the dynamics of the family was my dad worked hard, mom worked hard, brothers went to school, but it was something was wrong. At a young age, I really didn't know what it was. But my parents had problems, and it trickled down to us, especially me. And so, yeah, a good dad looked up to him, still love him, but he had his problems.
And what kind of kid were you? Did you ever feel like you had that type of potential to move forward?
Man, I thought I was a good football player. I was young, I can run hard, but I didn't remember the plays. I couldn't. They tell me to run through this hole, go through that hole, and I just really didn't understand the concept of the game. But I had the physical body to run, to do the things, to jump, catch the ball, and all these things. And my coach pulled me to the side, and he talked to me and said, "Say, son, you can't read." And I was ashamed to tell him no, I couldn't read or write. But so how he did the plays, he just drawed it out for me and said, just go left, go right, just give Mardis the ball. And that's what they did. And so, yeah, I was hindered for education.
What was it like seeing your parents argue so much at a young age?
Well, I really didn't understand it. I just thought maybe, they just hated each other, but that wasn't the case. My daddy stepped out and mom caught him, infidelity. And on her part, she didn't understand that she really didn't forgive him. And the only reason that they stayed together is because she left him. And my dad got out of the service, the Korean War, 1955, moved to Houston, Texas. Met my mom. She had my brother. He was one, and she was carrying a kid. And so that was my other brother. And come to find out, as time went on, those were my stepbrothers. So my dad raised them up, but my mom left. And the only reason she came back because she was pregnant with me in 1964. And she came back and they stayed together. And so that kind of triggered the drama in our household.
And how did that pain that they were both going through kind of affect and shape you?
Man, I tell you, emotionally, I didn't understand it because as a young child, remember, I'm only 9 years old, and I see my parents arguing and fighting, not physical fighting. Dad never hit mom, no. But the abuse, the language, the argument, I knew it was something wasn't right. But I always clinged to my dad's side. And I told myself, man, my mom means. I'm thinking it's her problem. I said, I'd never marry a woman like that. But all along, my daddy was the one who started everything.
What was you searching for as a child?
And just hey, that's a good boy. Hey, a good job, son. I love you. And those needs, if they're not met, man, that's a problem. Those needs have to be addressed as a young child. And my dad did love me. I feel it. He put food on the table. He clothed us, my mom, ironed my clothes, but they had their problems.
And you mentioned wandering the railroad tracks and different parts of the neighborhood. How did that kind of shape you?
Well,
As far as maybe like where you were with poverty or even just where you were in life.
I really didn't understand it because usually, if you ever been to Houston, the Fifth Ward, or any Third Ward, Fourth Ward, or if you go to New Orleans, California, they got a hood, and the hood normally separated by a railroad track. And I just didn't understand that on this side, uh, We rode bicycles and whatever we did on that side, the grass was green, the yard was cut. On this side, motors all in the driveway, trash all out. I didn't really understand that, but I knew it was a difference, and I just, I just couldn't grab it as that young age. But as I got older, I understood.
I want to hear more about that the coffee cup story.
Well, let me back up a minute. The arguments between my mom and dad. I noticed when my dad, when they finish arguing, he'll go to the living room, get his coffee, and he starts sipping his coffee. And he happy. He got happy and want to talk. But when he didn't drink the coffee, he barely talked. He didn't want to talk about nothing. So, but when he set his coffee cup down, I picked the cup up and started sipping it too. Now, young, I'm only 9 years old, so that tingling feeling, I got happy just like he did because I just wanted to be just like him. But little did I know, over the years, I began to shake. My body began to shake. Now I'm 10, I'm 11 years old. I've been doing this a long time. But I was too ashamed to go and say, hey, Pops, why I'm shaking like this here? Or Mom, why I'm like this? And the shame kept me from getting help at a young age.
What do you feel like the first time you got happy from the spike cup?
Well, I would say it was happy. It was just another sensation from listening to the argument and the fighting with my mom and dad that took me to another emotion, another level. And so I figure like, wait, my dad drank this, he feel better. Then maybe I can try it too and feel better. Were they abusing me? No. They love me. But the thing about that is, you have a household, you have a family, you have a unit, you have people that's trying to make it in this household, but somehow the devil done eased in and he's in the camp and he's not going nowhere. He's patient, he's cunning, he's baffling. And that's what he did. He started through my parents and it trickled down to me and my brothers. And so, yeah, I still feel that effect right now today. And I'm 61 years old. We talking, what, 30, 40 years ago, man.
What exactly was in the cup?
Man, I tell you, Clint, whatever it was good. I figured it was some Jack Daniel or some wild turkey or something, but it was liquor. Believe me, it was liquor because it had an effect on my body as a young kid. And as a result, I dropped out of school. I thought I was slow. I wasn't slow. I thought the kids were doing what I was doing. Go out and play, have fun, and go home and go to sleep, get up and do it again. They went home. They studying their lessons. I wouldn't study. And so now everybody passing to the junior high and going to school. I'm still in the 6th grade, like Jethro. You know what I mean? I said, well, they laughed at me and all this sin. So I just dropped out. I dropped out of school because I thought I was slow, but that wasn't the problem.
When did you start to realize you'd gone down a path of quote unquote no return?
Well, it took a while because I had to fake it till I make it. So remember, I'm 10, 11 years old. I'm still in the household of my family, but I have an alcohol problem. But on top of that, I couldn't read or write. Man, my dad had dropped me off at school. I beat him home. The neighbor came to say, hey, Mr. Mardis, hey, man, I see your son up there on the corner with beer and drink. He said, no, man, that's impossible. I just dropped my son off at school. Little did he know that I've been doing that for years, and that, you had the truant officers. If you skip to school, they'll pick you up, take you back to school. Sometimes they'll call your mom and your daddy back, and they didn't care neither. And so as a result, I couldn't read, I couldn't write, but what I could do is figure out some things. I knew that if I came to a stop sign, it said STOP and it was red. That means stop. Now, whether I could read it or not, no, I couldn't read that. But I understood the principles of it, So I didn't hang out with people that had GEDs or a high school diploma, because I didn't have none of those things. I hung out with people just like me that couldn't read or write, so they wouldn't laugh at me.
What role did the neighborhood environment play in how your addiction escalated?
Well, the thing about it, like I was, saying earlier about the railroad tracks, and so understanding what poverty is now. In our hood, we had a liquor store on each corner. We had a pawn shop on each corner. We had a club on each corner. And so all these things is what we looked at. That's what we did. And a very few that had some experience in sports went on to be something. But I tell you, man, at least 7 out of 10 were just like me. And so that was the problem. How can you recover? How can you succeed if you just like me? They used to see me and say, well, here come dummy. They used to call me dummy. And I thought that was cool. I'm dummy. I can't read, I can't write. That's why they call me dummy. But the thing about it is I had feelings too. I just didn't show them when they talked about me like that.
Let's talk about your first major crime, where you broke into the clothing store through the roof. I remember reading this, and I was just, you had gone through your story of growing up in that situation. I was really rooting for you to like make it, because you'd already been through so much. Can you tell us a little bit about that situation? Because when I was reading it, I was literally on the edge of my.
Yeah. And that was just leading up to that. Remember, at 9 and 10 and 11, I stole bicycles, stole in the store. So now the criminal concept, the criminal mind began to seek in because it's called survival of the fittest. How am I going to make it in this neighborhood? It still bring up those memories. Still are. Good kid from a good family, but I hung out with people that didn't know nothing. So all I know is steal and rob. That was it. So we broke in this store. It's a clothing store. Me and my friends, so-called friends, and we went through the roof. We cut a hole and went in the roof. They dropped me down in the roof. And I wonder why my daddy always said, son, if you had a bigger head, you'd be a bigger fool. And I didn't understand what he meant by that. He said the gate is wide open, but you jump over the gate. You don't go through the open gate. He said, won't you just leave your driving license and let the police just come get you? They ain't got to come look for you. And I didn't understand that till I got older. But anyway, I'm in the store and the police looking around, I hear him on the radio, hey, well, let's call the owner and tell him, think somebody breaking in the store. Well, I have my position. I'm looking out the window. They can't see me. They don't know how I got in. So they was pulling off. And as they was pulling off, I was positioning myself to see where they was going. And my arm hit the light, and the light came on. They backed up. Hey, whoever in there, come out of there. How you get down in that anyway? So it was a hole, it was a ladder. They got the ladder, they pulled me out of the building. But here's the deal though. They grabbed me on each side and said, we're gonna throw this nigga off this building. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. And they say, in a 1, in a 2, and a 3. But just so happened, they forgot they done called the owner. His headlights hit the parking lot. So they didn't throw me over 30 feet down to kill me. But after that, I went to jail. I went to juvenile. I got probation. I broke the probation. They sent me to juvenile. And that's when my criminal life began. Now I'm 16 and 17. Now remember, I'm still drinking. I'm still smoking weed, but now I'm popping pills. And remember, crack haven't even hit the scene yet.
I want to kind of back up to the point where you were hiding in the store. What was it like while you were hiding in the store?
Well, it was like a junkie trying to get another hit. They can't see me. I got them. Yeah, I got them. I broke in there. You know how I got it, and that's going through my mind. But little did I know that my arm hit the light and I got busted. Now, the feeling was, yeah,
And the police, they had came. They kind of looked in the window,
a bunch of them.
but they left.
They was on their way out.
They were about to leave.
Yeah.
All right. And so you were ducked down. You were hiding, and you were almost free, right?
Almost.
And then you stood up, and your arm hit the light.
Hit the light. And they bagged back. They bagged back and said, "Hey, somebody in here. Hey, if you in there, come out of there." And I had to come out. Had to surrender. And I was young, and I ended up going to jail for that. I ended up going to the TYC, Texas Youth Center, for that. Yes, sure did. That's my first sentence for 1 year.
So you mentioned that you went to the Texas Youth Center. What was that like? Because I'm sure that was a big gut check for just for how young you were and where you were in life.
Yes. Again, for that burglary, when I went in front of the judge, he really gave me a chance. You know, he gave me a year probation. But Clint, what I realize now that I didn't back then, nobody even asked me why I did it.
Mm.
Nobody asked me about my condition. Nobody asked me about my drinking. Nobody asked me about my drugging. Nobody cared about that. But that was the root of the problem. That was the underlying problem, was love. Feeling that I needed love, I needed attention, I needed parents. And so that led me to the streets. And out there, that was the real kind of love, you know, but I had to survive in order to make it. And so now I go through this Texas Youth Center down in Houston. And when I get out, now I'm 17, going on 18. But the thing about it is, now I'm starting to grow up. I'm grown now, but I still got these criminal thinking in my head. I'm still drinking. Now I'm popping pills. I still can't read and write. So now I'm just a little bit bigger dummy, as they call it.
When you came home from the youth center and after that whole the robbery ordeal, like what had changed? Had anything changed? What was home life like?
Yeah, a whole lot changed because now I'm locked up behind steel doors. Now I don't have any control over what I say and do. And so that took me to a whole nother level. But still, I still was an alcoholic and I still wanted to pop pills and I still couldn't read or write. So now on top of that, now I've been taken out of that environment, as we call the tracks. You know what I mean? But now I'm let right back out there in it. But now I'm a little older. So what's the deal is now? But the thing about it is, Brother Clint, man, I was headed for something I really didn't understand what it was. And it was called crack cocaine.
Talk about I want to hear your personal story about that, but I also want you to talk about, maybe mention about how it just now what time period was this? Was this the 80s? Was this the 90s? I know there was just a huge epidemic at the time.
Yeah.
I want to touch on that a little bit.
So now when I went to the youth center, I was 16. So we talking about 1978, 79. So this is way before y'all time, you know what I'm saying? And so I was just a youngster going through the trenches. 1980, when crack hit the hood, 1980. And I just getting out of the boys center at the halfway house. And I came back home. And it was like an epidemic. Wow. Everybody was smoking crack cocaine. And not on top of all that, HIV just hit the hood. And so we got an epidemic, pandemic, whatever you want to call it, in the hood. But we had a disease running wild. We had crack cocaine running wild. And they still was popping 714, got 62 preludes. They were shooting heroin. And so, man, you know, here it is right here. And so now I'm put right back in this environment.
It's a perfect storm situation.
Yes.
I know you also talked about losing a loved one, your brother, during that time. I mean, that's a lot at once. It's a whole bunch at once.
Yeah.
So when did you kind of realize that it wasn't just the drug use? When did you realize like it was tearing up a community, it was tearing up your family out of I just want you to talk a little bit more about that.
And really though, Clint, when I look back at that, it's like they just drop you off in Vietnam without any training.
Like it's a war zone.
Yeah, expect for you to survive in it. And so let me speak for me, had to survive in the hood. If you, I don't know, well, you probably don't remember, it was a rap that came out by the Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. He said it's a jungle. Sometimes it makes you wonder how you keep from going under. Then it's another verse, and he said, a child was born with no state of mind. He was blind to the ways of mankind. He said, God is smiling on you, but he is frowning too, because only God knows what you go through. And as I growed up on that, I took them lyrics and I ran with it. I said, yeah. Don't push me because I'm so close to the edge. Man, I tell you, the whole mindset changed. Now remember, I haven't even went to prison yet. I try to really clean up. 1980, 81, I try to get back the best way I can. I went to Jerry Job Corps down there in Gary, Texas, down there by Austin, and took up a trade. And I said, man, I really want to do something. But end up going to jail there because that's all I knew. I tried to rob a liquor store just to get some dope, because the dope is there. Dope is everywhere. So how am I going to get away from it? But from that robbery, I went to the Travis County Jail in Austin, and I did a little time there, and they let me out again. So I had some chances, brother. You know, I ain't gonna sit here and say I didn't have no chances, but I didn't have a chance because I didn't understand what I was going through.
How did crack cocaine take over your life and priorities again? And what led you to rob the U.S. Post Office? How did it feel when you realized that was federal time?
And man, I tell you, and that goes to show you just what state of mind I was in. I really was blind to the mankind. But the thing about it is, when the crack hit, you know, and let me tell you something, you know, I really like smoking crack, you know, but the crack didn't like me. And so I end up robbing and stealing for it. And man, I said, well, I heard about it was some money in a post office. Now, man, the little did I know that post office was federal. Yeah. Now I done been to the state, but now this is stepping up to another level. I'm gonna back up a minute and take you through the state part of it. I was 19 years old. They sent me to the roughest prison it was. I got sent to jail for robbery. Every time I went to prison, it was for robbery. If they'd have came and say, Mr. Mardis broke in Mr. Clint's house, they'd have said, no, he don't do no burglary. If he robbed Clint, that's another story. Yo, he ain't gonna break in nothing. But that was my motive. So you couldn't just put anything on me. So I went to that state prison, and I'm not gonna call the prison out, but it was one of the roughest prison it was at that age. And when I went in there, they assigned me to work out in the fields. And so I'm in the fields, and they give us a hoe, and they line us up by 10 in a line. We had to hit the ground. Now I understand this concept, but we hit the ground and we cleaning the ground. But the thing about it is, when you leave some grass, that means you done missed the cut. And so they had a lead roll and a tail roll. And they said, look out at H-Town, you got to get yours, man. I didn't understand what he talking about. Yeah, what you mean get mine? That's you leaving grass, man. They gonna make us stay here till everybody get their part. And so I left grass again. And here's a man on a horse with a gun, and here's a inmate just like me. Hey, boss, I got me one. And I'm looking around. What do you mean he got one? He come over, he bust me in my eye, hit me in my nose. In other words, they beat me up.
Is this a guard or is this a?
No, this is the inmate. They beat me up and they put me on back of the wagon, take me to the nurse's station, throw me in the solitary. I stay in solitary maybe 2-3 weeks till I heal up. You come back out of there. You got to go back to the infirmary. They check you out, make sure you're good, and send you back to classification. Classification assign you another job, but they put me right back in the toughest hole, one hole. And I go again, I miss my stuff, they beat me up again. And so now I'm wondering, why does God letting this guy beat me up? Listen, man, Clint, I got beat up so bad one time, my mama came to visit me, and they didn't allow her to see me. Miss Mardis, now you can't see Mr. Mardis, right? She said, well, why? You know why? Because I was shut down. I couldn't see, eyes closed, hold me in a cell, just in my boxers. And I'm gonna tell you something, talent. That changed my whole frame of thinking. Now wait a minute, Clint. Now, I want you to stay with me here. Now I'm 20 years old now. Remember, I started at 9 years old. I still couldn't read or write. I still was smoking dope. I'm still cracked out. It's a whole lot of things that was on me I had to deal with in this life. And so this time when they let me out of the solitary, a guy down there told me, he said, man, you're going to have to learn how to fight. He boxed around me, showed me how to fight. So when I went back to classification this time, they said, well, Mr. Mardis, we're going to put you in a garden squad. You can pick tomatoes. I said, no, you ain't. She said, what do you mean? I said, no, you're going to put me right back in one hole where these guys beat me up at. And when they did, I started beating them up. And see, the thing about it is, if you can beat the lead role or the tail role, you can become the lead or the tail. You know what I mean? I came both of them. But my concept was, if you missed a cut, I'm not going to beat you up. I just tighten the line up a little more and say, hey, man, y'all help him out a little bit. If he misses grass, get it. So I had some kind of integrity, some kind of dignity. Always had that. Even when I smoked the dope. I didn't smoke dope with everybody. If you were going to school and you were doing, don't come around me. I'm not going to give you no dope. I'm not going to spoil your life like mine. So I always had that in me, and I still had that in me today.
Was there specific differences between federal time versus state time?
Oh, yes. Totally different. But like I say, my Fed time was a little funny, man, because really I was just out there stealing and robbing. And I went in that post office and robbed them people, took their money. But when I robbed that post office, I ran across too much money, I guess. I ain't never robbed that much money. And so it was more than I ever robbed before. And so I really didn't know what to do with the money. And so I had my little buddy with me, and I gave him some of the money. What happened was he went and bought a brand new Camaro, over $10,000. So, if you go over 10 back then, the Fed want to know. So they came and charged him up and said, hey, man, where you get this money to buy this car? He was, but he was just a youngster too, so he gave me up. And, I ain't mad at him, still not mad at him. So when they came and got me and locked me up, I'm down there in Harris County Jail, man. And I tell you, now, I want you to understand something here, Mr. Clinton. Now, this is my fourth robbery. And so really, I'm facing a life sentence if I go back to jail for anything. But the federal is different from the state, and I didn't know that. And so as I was going to court, back and forth to the court in Harris County, if you ever been there, they have a tunnel. They chain everybody up, maybe 50, 60 in a chain. They walk you underground to the courts. And they put you in this little room, man, I tell you, it hold about maybe 40, 50 people. But everybody was in that courtroom was getting, when they see their lawyers, 20 years, 30 years, they come back and sit by me. I said, man, what's going on, man? He said, why you get so much time, man? I said, this your first time? Yeah. No. It's my second time. I said, second time? You got 30 years? Oh, Lord. What they finna do to me? I know I'm finna go somewhere. And they calling my name. Mr. Mardis. Mr. Mardis. Say, man. Guy hear me and say, man, hey, man, somebody calling you up front, man. I think that's your lawyer. So I go up there and I say, hey, yeah, man, my name is Alan Brentwood-Martis. Man, what's going on, man? He said, Mr. Mardis, I'm your court-appointed lawyer here. And he's looking at me like that. And I said, man, what's the deal, man? He said, man, you don't have a record. You got a CD. I mean, I got so much stuff on my record, it won't even fit in a record no more. And I said, man, well, what is it? He said, man, let me go talk to the DA. So he went in there and talked to the DA and come back and say, hey, man, you want to sign for 120 months? I said, 120 months? I said, man, yeah, 120 months? Yeah, I signed for 120 months. All right, come on, let's go back in the courtroom. See, I didn't know the Fed deal with months. They don't do with years like the state. So I'm thinking 120 months wasn't nothing. So they took me back in that courtroom, and the lady said, okay, this is 120 months. Did anybody coerce you or anybody force you? I said, no, ma'am, no, ma'am, no, ma'am. I take this 120 months. And so when I go back to the holding cell, and the guy's asking me, man, what happened? I was so scared to tell him. I said, oh, man, they reset me. So when I got back to the county jail, the guy was there waiting on me. Said, man, what happened, man? I said, shoot, man. I done tricked them white folks again. I done tricked them. Said, what you mean you done tricked them? Man, I got 120 months. They said, that's 10 years. I said, Lord have mercy, they got me again. But I didn't know 120 months was 10 years. And so in the feds, you do 85%. I did 8 years, 6 months on it. You know what I mean? But Clint, I got out. In 1998 and went right back. I'm still a junkie. I still can't read and write. I still can't do none of these things. But this time here, I was out for a few years when I pulled on side the road to commit suicide because I thought this was it. I can't do this no more, And the only reason, Clint, I didn't kill myself, I didn't know how to do it. So he ended up putting me back in the jail. And this was 2002. I got another 10-year sentence. Now, remind me now, I done an 8, I done a 10, I done another 10. So I done some time. You understand what I'm saying?
Mhm.
I still can't read or write and still was out there bad, man. So that part of that, and that's another story going into how I changed my life.
On your book, you said you're missing something, and that something was Jesus. When did you come to that realization? When did you make it real?
It was this time, 2002, when I pulled on side of the road to commit that suicide. They had got my license plate. I done another robbery. And I was back in Harris County again. But this time, I looked so bad. You can count my ribs. Head big. I was dead. I just hadn't laid down yet, pretty much. But when I got to the counter, I had my mattress. I got my deodorant and whatever the stuff they give me. And so when I got to the cell block, a guy came to me and said, hey, man, you want me to help you find your, wherever you living at, living quarter? I said, yeah. So I was on the second row. He said, let me get your mattress and everything. But I noticed, though, Clint, in the side of my eye, I looked. I saw a bunch of people holding hands. And at that time, it was called a prayer circle. I said, man, what they doing over there? So I went on up to my room. This was on a Thursday. So I slept Thursday. I slept Friday. So Saturday morning, I woke up. Now I'm sober. But my body was craving for food. I was hungry. And they called chow time. And so when I went down there, I got my tray. And so I ate my tray and I seen the guy come and say, hey, man, when you get through eating, you want to come and join the prayer circle? Just to get him out of my hair. I said, yeah, man, I'll come. So when I went there, one guy grabbed one hand, the other guy grabbed the other hand. And said, man, what's your name? I'm trying to sound tough. soaking wet. I ain't 100 pounds soaking wet. Yeah, my name Alan, man. They call me AB, you know. They said, okay, well, what you in here for? So I'm thinking, wow, these cats trying to come up on me. I say, robbery, man. So how much time can you do? In my mind, none, fool. What do you ask me? How much time can I do? But anyway, though, he said, I'm just trying to be generous. And I said, I can do 10 years. And that Monday I went to court, and sure enough, I got 10 years. And that was the turning point of my life. I said, I got back and they said, well, what happened? I said, man, I got that 10 years, man. And the guy that invited me to the press circuit said, I already knew that. He said, you know why I asked you your name? He said, no, you have to identify yourself. She said, you know why I asked you what you did? He said, you have to confess the things that you did. And you know what I asked you? How much time can you do? He said, you have to ask and you shall receive. And he said, you have to call those things that are not as though they were. And from that day on, my life changed around. And now what I was missing was Jesus. And that's why I wrote the book. I was missing something, and that something was Jesus. I went to AA, I went to NA. None of those, I ain't saying they bad. No. I never say anything against that. But that ain't what I found. I found when I got out, I had the leg monitor on. So when I took that leg monitor off, I went to church, and the guy was preaching. Said, man, I've been out 10 years. I say, what? So this can be done. And so 1 year turned into 2, and 2 years turned into 3. And now I've been out 16 years. I've been sober, been free, married, got grandkids. And so, yeah. Things can turn around for you. And they did for me.
How'd you begin your journey on becoming a prison addiction counselor?
Man, I tell you, like I told you, I worked at Tyson Chicken for 12 years, retired there, and I'm sitting around idle. Remember, idle. You can't be idle when you're in addiction. But the thing about it is, addiction, man, once you learn what addiction is, it's a disease and it have to be treated just like cancer or AIDS or hepatitis or anything in that nature. If you don't treat it, it's going to dominate. It's progressive. And I understood that. That's the understanding I got. And that's the language that I speak right now today. That do the thoughts come to my mind? Oh, yeah. But I dismiss them now. I have some I can lean on. All those years. Do I think those were wasted time? No. All he done was building me up for where I am right now. You know, where I got a good work partner. Me and Josh work. We in a good environment. I walk them hallways right now, and I see them guys. I see me. But I tell Josh, I say, man, you know, you LCDC, you got all the masters and all that, but it's a language that you don't have that I have. And that's going into them with them guys, and they connect with me, and I connect with them, and I bring it to them, the truth, you know, and what they need to do to get out, to stay out.
What's it like walking through those halls when you've already been in that same environment, looking at it? And
it feels good. When I got there, I was only there maybe 2 weeks. And I'm still in training. I saw this lady in the director's office. She was crying. And I asked her, I said, why that lady crying? Why she crying? And so she said, well, I don't know. So I went and asked the director. I said, you know, what's wrong with the counselor? She said, well, Mardis, she's in one of those dorms, you know, and they talking and cussing out, this, that, and other. I said, well, send me to that dorm. She said, what? So she called my supervisor and said, hey, Mardis want to go to that dorm. I said, send me to the toughest dorm y'all have here. Let me go in there. I went in there. They cussed me out. They called me everything but the child of God. Up in about 6 months, we was getting the week we getting pizza, we getting cake and dorm of the month. Man, how did he do that? It wasn't me. It was him. You know, and so I went to that dorm. I went to other dorms. And Parrot, he right here. I went to these dorms. And that's how I got the reward of working beside him. It wasn't just given to me; I earned it.
What's the message that you give these men that you work with? Like, how do you connect with them?
I tell a man, what are you running from? Who are you hiding from? That man in the mirror. You got to come forward. You got to be truthful with yourself. But the thing about it is, how bad do you want it? Yeah. How bad do you want it? I wanted it bad enough to be out 16 years of marriage. I got a nice house. I got vehicles I'm driving around in. And matter of fact, I ain't dummy no more. I got my GED. I got a college degree. Yeah, come on, talk back to me. So he take those things. He say, I take the foolishness of this world to confound the wise. And that's what he did with me. So I'm a living testimony to tell you, you ain't been through what I've been through. Hallelujah. Your pants ain't stuck together for 2 weeks, and your ribs, you can count your ribs, and both of your back pockets touch like this here. Ha, 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 ha. No, you ain't been there. But you don't want to go there. But the experience ain't always the best teacher. Me and Josh talked about that the other day. Man, you can jump off that building and break your neck. I ain't going to get up there and do it. Your neck broke, and I see how it got broke. So I ain't going through that. You understand what I'm saying? But I will tell you this. If you're out there and you need help, hey, man, y'all come on see me down in 1717 Castleberry down there in Jacobs Memorial. I got something for you. You know what I mean? Go get the book. I was missing something, and that something was Jesus. Hey, Barnes and Nobles got it. Amazon got it for $12. Read the book. Contact me. Find me. We'll talk.
So we're gonna do a little quick fire round just to bring it all together. What's your favorite scripture that carried you through?
Jeremiah 33:3. Say, call on me. Not only will I answer, I'm going to show you some things you ain't never seen before. He have shown me. Yeah.
One mistake you warn others not to repeat.
Learn something. Don't think you know it all. You don't know a Buckeye baby. Zero. I understand 0 plus 0 is 0. 0 minus 0 is 0. 0 times 0 is 0. If you ain't got nothing, you sure ain't going to get nothing. So understand the concept.
What does healing look like today for you?
Man, it starts from the inside. See, because once you start to feel good on the inside, I might not look the way I look. You got to understand something. And Josh will just tell you, I just got over cancer. I had prostate cancer. Yeah. Man, look, I had 37 weeks of chemo. I came to work every day, ain't missed a day. I came to work, I drugged myself in there. I showed them, if I can do it, you can do it. And not only that, I got arthritis, I got thyroid problem, I got high blood pressure, but you wouldn't know it because I don't cry about it. I'm in pain 24/7. I just keep up. I dust myself off. I keep on moving forward. And that's how I'm going to do it. And until he say, Mr. Mardis, it's your time. It's finished. And I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing.
Well, Minister Mardis, thank you so much for your courage, your honesty, and just your helping heart, helping others, and your vulnerability, and coming here and talking with us today. You know, from sipping spiked coffee as a child to serving others as a counselor inside the walls you once called home. Your story's proof that grace is real, redemption is possible,
Oh, yeah.
and purpose can arise from the ashes. So until next time, this has been Pathways from to Recovery by Addiction Recovery Solutions.